Two things I want to talk about this week. The first is like console news, what Xbox and PlayStation are up to, but the other thing is about a game. So with the first story, it's PlayStation 5 Pro. The latest talk of the town, I've noticed a few articles from places like The Shortcut as well as Tweaktown talk about the potential of a PS5 Pro reveal being imminent. This is because of the announcement of Sony PlayStation attending Tokyo Game Show this year. Tokyo Game Show, of course, is a massive video game trade show, something like upwards of 4,000 booths, all these companies showing off their wares, their software, what have you. And Sony hasn't attended since 2019, leading some of the general speculation I've seen online to suggest that Sony hasn't been around in a while. Now it's finally time for them to show something. They're going to show off the PS5 Pro. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't totally think this is the case. I mean, I have no idea. It could go either way, right? It's a total crapshoot. PlayStation is unpredictable, but a couple of reasons why. On the one hand, you can say in 2019, when they went to TGS, that was as the PS5 announcement was starting to build up, so they could essentially do that type of cycle again, at least start showing us games that are running on PS5 Pro, drag out Mark Cerny or something like that. I don't know for sure because we don't know if they're doing an actual press conference presentation type thing. They also, I believe, technically didn't even do one in 2019, so there's that. But also for me, I question, is this the place for them to do it? That I don't really know. On the one hand, it's been so long since the last Tokyo Game Show because Sony's been doing their own thing. There was COVID, of course, smack dab in the middle of that, and then they've been doing what they've been doing. But now, I think at this point, it's 2024, things have kind of changed. I think if they were to reveal something, they would do it on their own terms, at their own presentation or live stream. I would more realistically think something like this, more of a software focus. They're not going to come out and show the PS5 Pro, here it is, or anything like that. But maybe we catch glimpses of things like I had kind of alluded to earlier, running on a PS5 Pro, but also I think just games in general, that they got something to show. This is, of course, after Astrobot releases, with Tokyo Game Show taking place later in September. So I'm wondering, what else is on the slate? Is it too late for them to announce any last, end of the year, holiday, fall release surprise games? Is that just copium? Because I just always want more games? I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's interesting, especially because I feel like the PS5 Pro conversation has died down recently. I mean, people haven't really seemed as jazzed about it. Maybe I'm biased because I play a lot of stuff on PC, and then on the console side, I don't know. The newest generation of consoles has been out for a while. I've been using my PlayStation 5 plenty, but on the one hand, you're already getting more games on consoles that are coming in only at 30 frames per second. On the other hand, it still feels like some games haven't really taken advantage of the next-gen hardware as crazily as it could. So I don't know. The whole conversation is in this weird limbo. Again, I might be biased. I'm not personally too excited about a PS5 Pro, but the PS4 Pro, when it released, it was exciting enough for us. And I say us like the more hardcore enthusiast crowd. I just think it's an interesting time though, financially, economically. Are people going to go for a PS5 Pro if it is announced for this holiday season? There have been rumors and stuff suggesting that for so long. I don't know for sure. So I'm curious to see what the deal is, but also I kind of want to hear from you guys, just gauge from you guys, because I don't know. The other big thing under my umbrella of what the console guys are doing is Xbox announcing Game Pass subscription price increases. This was inevitable. I think this is news that, yeah, it absolutely sucks to have prices go up, but it hasn't really surprised anyone. So here's the deal. I'm reading from Windows Central. We'll link that all down in the description. New users on Xbox Game Pass in the near future will be greeted by a new Xbox Game Pass standard. This is more like EA Access, which includes Xbox's back catalog and doesn't include day one games. This will be priced at $15 a month and will include Xbox Live Gold for multiplayer. Apparently, it doesn't include Xbox Cloud Gaming, and Game Pass Standard is launching in September. Then, of course, there will still be Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. It's not changing, but that's going up. It's now going to be $20 a month. PC Game Pass is also going up from $10 a month US to $12. For users with recurring billing, the new prices will take effect on September 12th. So there's a lot of ins and outs and stuff like that, but the bottom line is price going up, and my look at that is, yes, duh, prices are going up everywhere. I'm paying out the ass for Netflix and Hulu at this point, and they just email me every other month saying, hey, it's going up. I think I just got an email about Spotify going up the other day. But I think the prices were inevitable to go up because Microsoft has been spending so much money. But also the big thing, of course, is Call of Duty. With the next Call of Duty going day one on Xbox Game Pass, I mean, it makes sense that Microsoft's going to want to get that money from those users jumping on, right? And also to recoup the massive expenditure of Activision Blizzard. I know they're owned by Microsoft. They have plenty of capital forever, but as a layman, I kind of look at it as almost like a rich kid was given free reign to start his own fun new business where he just kind of like, builds a skate park and hang out with his friends. And then the rich dad comes in and is like, hey, this has to finally actually make money. That whole, hey, yeah, free reign, here's your credit card, do whatever you want, can only work for so long because ultimately at the end of the day, the line has to go up for all these companies. So no real big insight here other than, damn, I hate paying more for things. One thing down, the other thing I wanted to talk about this week, it's a little bit more of a news story from last week, but it's Resident Evil 9. Capcom had a live stream presentation where they had announced stuff like that new Dead Rising deluxe remaster. But with that, they also confirmed the next Resident Evil is in the works. This has been rumored, leaked forever. I've heard about it for a couple of years now. But the game director this time around is Koshi Nakanishi, who was the director of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Revelations and has just kind of generally worked on Resident Evil as the brand for a while now. And his quote is what actually got me really hyped. I talked about this a little bit on the Game Ranks Friday show, but the quote is, "It was really difficult to figure out what to do after Resident Evil 7, but I found it. And to be honest, it feels substantial." So that quote right there, I think is interesting if you actually read into it, because that to me sounds like somebody looking for the next sauce. What's the next thing for Resident Evil? If you recall, Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was a big shift for the franchise, a turn away from a lot of the typical norms of the franchise and a true kind of deep dive into horror. The game is derivative. It's a celebration of a lot of horror elements. It uses recognizable horror tropes and creates this wonderful, weird, crazy thing. I personally really, really love. But I also really love the original Resident Evils. I grew up on those suckers. They're on a different level for me and a totally different wavelength. So with Nakanishi talking about like finding the next thing, what's that next thing? I look at it as what's that next weird direction for Resident Evil to go into. And I don't know if I necessarily want that, unless they managed to rope in the interesting characters in interesting ways. I really don't think they did a good job with that with 8. Really looking back, as much as I liked Resident Evil 8 or Village, the Chris stuff just felt kind of weird. It felt a little forced. It felt like they had to get that stuff in. It's nice to know that those characters are still out there doing their thing, like canonically, but I don't know. When they started so bold and different with 7, for them to kind of like just cram this back in, I don't know. So now I'm looking at this Resident Evil 9, which it will probably most likely be, and just I'm wondering how big of a new turn in direction is it going to be, and will it involve the original characters? I really hope it does, because that's frankly what I want. And honestly, it makes sense. Capcom and Resident Evil have done so much reinvesting into Resident Evil. Resident Evil has been top dog for a minute now. After years of being dormant or kind of weird, the newer games have been crushing. They've been dumping millions into remaking and reintroducing audiences to characters like Leon, Jill, Chris. I'm saying that like with the expectation or the idea that like they are still remaking other early games. We've heard leaks, rumors, reports of stuff like Resident Evil 0 or Code Veronica being remade. So they are putting the time in to bring that stuff to the current generation. And I don't mean console generation, I just mean like generation of players, of new Resident Evil fans, right? So now I'm looking at like, was that them laying the chips, so to speak, to then finally upend everything with a new full-fledged Resident Evil game, a Resident Evil 9, featuring some of our favorite classic characters. There have been rumors, of course, circling around that will be the case. I have also heard rumblings behind the scenes that this will be the case, but who knows? I also personally think it would be crazy for them to introduce a new character at this point. We just had 2 games that was like the Ethan Winters or the Winters family saga, with Capcom and Resident Evil saying that like, all right, that's wrapped up. So number 1, I'm still like, what was the point of all that? But that besides, are we going to do that again with more new characters, or is it going to be Jill or something? Dude, if you just bring the gang all back together and just make it a little bit better than some of those CGI Netflix animated movies. I know things started to get a little rocky with 6, but now like looking back, maybe it's nostalgia or it's missing those characters, but I'll take something like that again. I don't care. But with somebody like Nakanishi at the helm, I think at least there's going to be something weird and different about it. Is it going to be our favorite characters in a wildly new context or setting or threat? Maybe. But is it going to be third person? Is it going to be first person? I really hope it's third person, but that's just my preference. I still just look at the original games and think it's like a perfect storm of something that still could be special and unique to this day. The early Resident Evil games, and even like the remade ones, find a really good balance, a really good like tightrope walk between good horror, a little bit of 90s cheese, and some over-the-top awesome Japanese style action and characters and lore and intrigue. It ebbs and flows how much of which is in each game, but I think they could really kind of crack that formula again and really get it nailed down and have a new Resident Evil that just blows everybody away. That, of course, is me I'm rooting for the franchise. I love Resident Evil. I have all those stupid old books somewhere. I should show those on camera at one point. You know, the S.D. Perry novels that aren't canon, but they're canon in my head, technically. So I've loved this shit forever, and I just want it to be awesome, and I hope it works out. But that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm talking about two things every week, and trying not to always just do negative news stories and bitching about everything, because there's plenty to complain about. But sometimes I want to talk about just stuff I find interesting. That's still what I'm ultimately doing here. So if you have been watching this long, welcome to the new show where two things. I'm not calling it anything, but I'm always going to talk about two things. Sometimes I'm going to talk about a bonus thing that I want to squeeze in at the end, though. Something weird. So take this. Variety is reporting, this was just announced for my weird movie perverts out there. I'm a diehard movie fan. Michael Giacchino is releasing a film score covers album. It's going to be lounge style. Essentially, it's new covers, new versions of some of his biggest hits. It's going to be called Exotic Themes for the Silver Screen, and it's releasing on digital and vinyl in July. This volume 1 is going to feature stuff from like The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Medal of Honor, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Super 8, Star Trek, Ratatouille, Secret Weapons over Normandy, Lost, The Incredibles, Cloverfield. There's a lot there, and it's a lot of music and movie themes that I really have loved over the years. I think music really sells something. I could watch a movie that's not that great, but if the theme, the score is incredible, I'm in emotionally. Case in point, the newer Star Trek movies. I don't think they are the greatest things ever, but the music, the theme heightens it so much, and they did release a preview of one of the songs, and it's a goofy little lounge style cover of Enterprising Young Men, basically the main theme from the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. I think we can play a little bit without me getting copyright claimed. Can we try it, Andrew? Yeah, so it's goofy. It's definitely like not for everybody, but I just like appreciate stuff like this. And it can kind of relate to video games because Michael Giacchino originally started in video games. He's like the GOAT as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the fact that he did the Medal of Honor theme, the original incredible theme, I don't know. But I just like that. I wanted to share that. Came across my desk. I like that it's a thing. I like that it's also not just about his movie scores. It's got the game scores right there in the headline too. You love to see it. So everything I'm talking about is going to be linked down there. But let me know what you think about this format. Just talking about stuff I find interesting. I want to talk to you guys more. I want to be out every week yapping more. So yeah, let's talk about this stuff. If you get it, if you appreciate it, clicking the like button helps. But that's it. I've talked long enough. I'm Jake Baldino. Have a great day. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.